So welcome, Patrick. It's fantastic to have a chance to have a conversation with you today about the Dare to Lead program. So thanks so much for making the time.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Excellent. So I do have a couple of questions. And so the first one, I think would be great just to understand a bit about your role. And, I understand you do similar things to what I do. So just for those watching.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. So I've been a facilitator and coach for some close to 30 years, I think now. So quite an extended sojourn. We're very much the specialization around how do I optimize this as my organization? So it really is about bringing the inside qualities to the fore.
Right.
And also then dealing with obviously the individual challenges or hurdles that I face along the way as well. So that combination of facilitation and which is group, of course, and then the one-on-one intervention of being able to take that a great deal further.
Yes,
I find incredibly valuable.
Yeah. Well, you're a seasoned professional and you have been in the industry for a long time and you're well regarded. So I was really absolutely stoked and rapt and pleased when you decided to come on the program. So what made you join the Leadership Sphere Dare to Lead program?
Look, I'm a course junkie.
Right, okay.
Look, anything to do with personal development, personal and professional, I put those in the same bucket.
Yeah.
Is something that does appeal to me because I think it's a lifelong journey for all of us. Sure. How do I become a better husband? How do I become a better parent, a better leader, a better manager? It's all part of that journey. And then coupled with my love of Brené's work anyway, it was an obvious. It had to do.
I really like what you're saying there, and I 100% subscribe to that. Sometimes I think we artificially try and separate our roles out, and we're so kind of integrated, aren't we? We've got different roles for sure, but we're the same person, whether we're a husband, a father, a mother, a sister, a manager, a leader, a CEO. We're still Patrick, and we're still Phil.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, and time again, that you would have experienced similarly to myself, that when you are particularly doing coaching, the belief that there is a separation actually fairly quickly disappears.
Yes.
When you get that person talking and they suddenly get that penny drop to say, well, hang on, the way I play it out in the home environment is actually fairly close to what I do in the work environment. Yeah.
And I think if we try and change who we are in any of those contexts, it takes so much energy and mental headspace, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Which of course detracts from what our purpose is at the end of the day anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious just to ask you about your experience of the program. What was it like for you at a personal, professional level, wherever you'd like to take it? But I'm really curious, is a really personal kind of share from you about what the experience was like.
As I said I think it was the session 2 or maybe 3. No, it was 2. I'm fairly sure it was. That I felt, yes, some of the content I had experienced before. However, because it was presented in a different way, and obviously I was in a different space anyway.
Yes.
Then I don't care how many times you repeat that experience. The actual experience will landing within you in a different way.
Yes, I agree.
So that was really enjoyable. What I really did like was right up front start to set an intention for myself. What was my call to action, if you like, call to courage? And I started out with an organizational one, which was really to deal more effectively with very senior leaders in organization.
Right. Okay.
Because I think I've always had that trait of being a bit of an imposter, like so many of us, I guess.
Indeed.
That, you know, I'm here and they are somewhere up here.
Yeah.
But very quickly, it turned out that my whole experience during the balance of the journey was one of looking at my home relationships.
Right.
And the two actually were interlinked. And what sat, I'm going to be fairly transparent here, what sat at the center of that was self-worth.
Right.
And if I couldn't deal with it in a home environment, then how can I possibly translate that to the professional environment as well? Otherwise, as you were earlier saying, that takes a huge amount of energy that's then wasted. So very quickly it became, you know, really digging the dirt around the home relationship. So not that I don't have a very positive, loving experience, but I knew there were some issues there that had to be dealt with. So that was the...
So thank you so much for sharing, you know, at a really personal level. And I don't, so the next question is not about asking you to go into the kind of personal dirt, to use your term, but I guess more the outcomes or the benefits of that kind of process for you. What's that been like for you?
So the first thing was actually just getting the clarity,
right,
as to where that lack of self-worth came from, where I wanted to move in the future. Because obviously I can't move ahead in a straight line and a clear intended line if I didn't know my starting point.
No.
So that was the major benefit. The second was then obviously the realization that the hard work now starts. You've actually got to put it into practice. And on the way, I continually found, as we turned the pages of each session, that here was another little pearl. You know, for example, the one around trust. I made a note here that that I was very clear when working with people as to the boundaries that I expected of others, but I wasn't clear about my own boundaries.
Okay.
So those sort of little realizations really came to, I won't say to haunt me, but tap me on the shoulder as a reminder to say, before you do intervene, for example, in a coaching session, what are your boundaries in this situation? Because if we're going to work more effectively together, then we need that alignment. So it was that, as I say, each session opened up a new realization, and that was the key for me. Yeah.
And obviously Brené has much more to do this than me, but if I do say so, I think the course is well structured, isn't it, in terms of thinking about kind of, as Brené talks about, what gets in the way. She, by her own admission, wanted to study courage, but ended up studying what gets in the way of courage. Wanted to study brave leadership, but ended up studying what gets in the way of that. And so the first part of the course is about looking at all the things that get in the way, and then the second half is about starting to build the skills around those, such as braving trust and living into our values and learning to rise, which is about resilience.
Yes. And even as we were getting into the moving forward element, for example, in trust, what I uncovered that was a real little pearl. I come from a military family.
Right, I just didn't know that.
So one of my father's core values was duty.
Right.
You know, duty was absolutely everything. Very Victorian, very military value to have. And when I looked at that, I realized, hang on, that's the value that I've taken on board. And that is something that could actually get in the way, as well as being supportive of my movement into the future. So it was both a challenge and an opportunity.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Patrick. I guess one other, so following on from that is, it sounds like the course has made a huge difference for you. Who, I'm assuming you'd recommend the course. I mean, that's kind of the question.
Absolutely.
I wonder who you think should do this course. Like, is it kind of broad?
I would say anybody
Okay.
who has an interest in growing this organization. And if I don't grow this organization, then where am I?
Yeah, I really love that metaphor. I think that's quite unique in terms of thinking about ourselves as an organization, and kind of how we show up really matters, doesn't it? So
yeah, very much so. Yeah. Now, I actually use that occasionally in facilitation, and saying, you know, for example, when you're talking about iceberg, you know, when you look at the iceberg, then we'll say, well, this is you. You are an iceberg here. So what is it that in your organization that you manage extremely well, and where are the challenges that you have? Because you can't then extrapolate that understanding and put it into organizational context unless you've got it managed here.
And if I link that back to what you've been saying, it sounds like the DTL program really helps you examine the stuff below the waterline that we don't necessarily even see as ourselves, right? Those kind of blind spots for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So many of those elements that, you know, however many, and this is going back to my earlier point of being a course room junkie, in that every time you go down there, you find something unique, even if it's just a minor sidestep from the core issue. It's just getting, there's another realization. Got that one now.
One of the things, perhaps one of the final questions, the hard work that you've done and many others on the course did requires a degree of safety in the group. So I'd really be curious as to understand from you how safe did you feel, and how was that created? I mean, because that's really important for people potentially listening and making a decision as to whether they want to come on this program. The risk is it might sound really scary, but what was your experience around safety in the group?
I think the safety was there for a number of reasons. One obviously was your facilitation style anyway, I believe.
Oh, thank you. Very
much invites that sense of security, and I'm in very safe hands. But the second was, I'm fairly sure it was the way in which the program was laid out. So even in that first session, whilst obviously there's inevitably a degree of discomfort when you go into new environment.
For sure.
I found that very, very quickly that dissipated. So for me, what I equated that with the experience that we as facilitators have when we go into a course room, the need to build the rapport, to build the understanding, to build the trust, etc.
Yeah.
So it was the process, and it was your safe hands that you provided.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And I think also, to some degree, I should mention Susie as well, Middleton here, in that even in the setting up of my joining, she made me feel very welcome.
Oh, that's nice.
So that helps.
Yeah. That's I'm really pleased that was your experience, and also I think it's if we think about a program in a very holistic way, which we do, it's the end-to-end experience that really matters for us, and the joining part is just as important. You know, if people feel like they're being bounced, or, you know, it doesn't feel nice, then they're going to enter the course not feeling nice, and then we're, as a facilitator, we're kind of on the back foot. So I'm really pleased, and I hadn't heard that feedback before from yourself, so I'll certainly pass that on to Susie and the rest of the team as well.
Great.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Patrick? I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, the last question was around recommendations, I think.
Yes.
So that's why I asked earlier, is about the numbers on the future program. Right. Because I found, I think it was close to 40 people we had on. 38?
33.
33 was it? Yeah. I found that a little too many.
Yeah.
And third or fourth session, I was seeing a face that I don't think I'd seen before.
Yes.
So what I would have liked, I think, would a touch more time, particularly in the one-on-one or the subgroup shares, and then also when we came back into plenary, and you or one of the other facilitators was facilitating the takeouts from those discussions. You know, whether that was a partially maybe an extension in time from 2 hours to 2.25, I don't know.
Yeah, so exactly. Just we have increased the time, and we've also reduced the numbers. So,
okay, great.
yeah, we now have. Well, this is as we're recording this, the 90 minutes at the start and 90 minutes at the end, and then 6 2.5-hour sessions. And we are giving people a little bit more pre-work and post-work to create some more space. But the 15 people, I think, will make a big difference. So
excellent. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing also, that the thread through it was also the fact that we had home exercises to do before coming back to.
Yes.
It made it put you on the spot.
And you'll get an invite from us very soon, Patrick. But we've also added another part, is what we're calling the community hub. So we've actually got an online app which effectively houses all of the videos, the pre-work, the resources, everything's in one spot, and it's working extraordinarily well to help to build that community even more than we had on the program that you did. So,
yeah. Great, excellent.
All right, well, thank you very much, Patrick. I really appreciate your time.
Absolute pleasure. Have a great day.
Thank you.